This is Parenting for the Everyday, a podcast dedicated to meeting parents in the trenches of parenthood. We explore how our faith fits into our parenting. With the help of our guests, we are seeking practical tips on how the gospel can speak into our day-to-day parenting. From the easy stuff to the hard stuff, we want to talk about it all.
This is Parenting for the Everyday. I'm Holly Dyke Andrew.
And I'm Becca Alvarez.
And it's Valentine's Day.
Yay! So crazy.
We are joined today by our executive director, Sarah Coons.
Hello.
Say hi to the people.
Hi people.
And we are talking about Valentine's Day. We're talking about love and dating our spouses and how to have some romance. Are we talking about that?
Romance. Yes.
So yeah, we thought it would be fun to spend today kind of talking about in different seasons. We're all in a different season of marriage and how we intentionally just connect with our spouse and why that's important, and maybe share some ideas, even to help each other. So here are some fun facts about Valentine's Day before we dive in.
I love fun facts.
Okay, me too. Me too. You
I
never know when you're going to be like on a trivia show.
Seriously.
And you're going to need this information.
That's right.
Okay, so nearly 200 million roses are grown for Valentine's Day alone.
That seems wild. I also don't like roses.
Same.
Me too. Let's get a new fun flower, some more variety in there. Matt always gets me tulips.
That's
Oh,
cute.
I love tulips.
Actually, guys, if you're listening, maybe try something other than roses.
And they're so expensive
On
during that time. Like,
Okay.
Okay.
Next fun fact is that $26 billion are spent on Valentine's Day in the U.S. in 2023.
Wait, you said billion.
Billion with a B. In 2023, $26 billion was spent on Valentine's Day.
That feels rude.
Do you say rude?
Yeah, I
Did you say rude?
I just feel offended by that.
Well, it feels like a lot.
It is. A lot. Here, it gets better. Are you ready for this
All
one?
right. Yeah.
753 million of that was for presents for your pets.
I can't.
I can't even say it with a straight face.
Guys, I can't. I have pets, but I don't.
Did you
they're
spend?
animals.
Well, maybe they need a Valentine's Day present.
No.
Do you do that?
No.
Well,
I do not.
You are alone, according to the statistics.
Do you
Obviously.
do presents for your pets? Will you?
I will now.
No, you won't.
No, I won't.
Okay.
But I don't love
Can you
my
buy
pets
something
the
for
way
your
other
ducks?
people do. So, okay. So let's get into it. What does dating your spouse even mean? What does that phrase mean? Let's break it down.
I think for me, it just the word that keeps coming to mind is intentionality. Like just being intentional, because it's really easy. I feel like that's one of the relationships where we take it for granted the most, right? We're just like, okay, this person, they're kind of always there. They promise to, always be there in good times and in bad. And so I think we take advantage of that a lot. And I think we have to be intentional about saying, hey, not only are we going to spend time together, but we're going to spend intentional time like pursuing each other in our relationship and having fun together. Like for me, dating is so much about having fun, shared experiences. So at least that's what it means for me. What about you guys?
I really love that we're talking about this on a parenting podcast because
Yeah.
it feels adjacent to parenting. Like dating your spouse should be on a marriage podcast. But I feel like there's, especially when you're in like the depths of parenting, that relationship specifically, like Sarah said, can be taken for granted because all the focus is on your kids. Whether you have babies or school age, like life just keeps getting busier. And so it's so easy to go to work, come home, get the babies fed in bed, and then time for yourself. And sometimes that time for yourself can feel individual. Like I need my space because I haven't had it in the last 18 hours.
18 hours.
Very specific.
I understand
Speaking
that.
hypothetically.
Hypothetically.
Right.
But if day after day, that's your rhythm and you never take the moment to focus on the person next to you, then you guys just become roommates. And then that's when you're really starting to see, I think, the fragments in the relationship start and that chasm can get larger and larger. And then you're in a pretty dangerous spot to start looking for attention from other people or other places because that desire doesn't go away, but sometimes that person fades
Yeah, it's interesting. When you think of dating, I feel like it's in the early days, you're dating someone, you want to like get to know them. And it is fun, right? When you're going on dates and you're doing all these fun things, you want to know their interests and you're kind of like courting them. And then to what you're saying, like life gets in the way and it's like, well, I already know them.
Right.
So I don't need to go on dates with them. But it's like actually when the regular routine sets in, that's what we're talking about, the romance and all that kind of takes a backseat. The fun takes a backseat. And so then you need to work at it to keep that relationship feeling or healthy, not just feeling healthy, being healthy. So what makes it hard in different seasons? Actually, let's pause. We're all in a different season. Should we just say the season we're in, just in case people don't know?
Sure. You want to go first? Sure. So I have been married to my husband, Sean. It'll be 5 years in July. We have 2 little boys. We have a 2-year-old and a toddler, or no, toddler is the 2-year-old, and a 4-month-old. So an infant and a toddler. And so our season is pretty busy. We've got babysitters all the time, bedtime all the time, which is very like hands-on. So date nights are a little bit more difficult. I'm also a nursing mom, so I can't be away from my infant for very long. He doesn't take a bottle, which is super cool for me.
We'll save that for a different podcast.
It's a different topic. But that just makes our date nights a little bit more creative.
Yeah. So then I'm kind of in the middle. I've been married to Jimmy for 15 and a half years. Our kiddos are 14, and then we have twin 7-year-olds. And so we're out of that kind of like little kid, keeping everyone alive survival mode. And we're entering into a really busy season with they're all doing extracurricular activities. There's homework now. There's just a lot more going on. They go to bed a little bit later. And so it's just a different season.
Yeah. And then I'm kind of on the other end where Matt and I have been married. It'll be 27 years this summer, which is crazy. And so our kids, like my older 3 kids, are all out of the home. So they're in college, they're away. And then we have our one daughter who's 13, who's still at home. But it's real different. I mean, date night could be any night of the week if it's something we wanted. Now, I think Matt and I are very busy just with ministry and professional stuff. But it's much easier for us to, like, if we want to go out to eat, we can go out to eat. Like, there's not, I don't need to call someone to come over. Our one daughter could stay at home by herself for a couple hours. So, it looks really different. But I think there is different things that are hard the longer you've been married as opposed to, so we can talk more about that. Yeah.
It's a different season. It's like we all said we're busy.
Yeah.
So that's never going away.
True.
Right.
That's even something to digest a little bit.
Right.
But maybe we should start with, should we just go in order? Like, should we start with the little kids stage and kind of talk about like maybe what we did, what you're doing, maybe ideas and kind of things. So we kind of described the stage, and I don't know if you said this today or when we were talking in past, but also like you're in a stage where your kids are a little clingy, want to touch you all the time. So totally different dynamic of being overtouched, and also maybe needing more alone time when you're like, I just need a thought to myself. Am I remembering it correctly?
You are.
I feel like it's pretty accurate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very accurate. Love my boys, love spending time with them. But there's a couple different things that make it difficult in my particular season. One, they need a lot. And I love being able to meet those needs. But that means that when my husband comes home and if he needs something, it feels like,
one more person.
You got to do it. Like, I can't do it. And he's so great and he's so helpful. The other thing that makes my season difficult, and I don't know if you guys felt the same way, I am lucky enough to be home with the boys, but that also means that my days look really similar every day, which is very fun for me. But when Sean comes home and he's like, hey, what'd you do today? I'm like, changed a lot of diapers and like
pretty
played.
Much the same thing as yesterday.
We did nap time, so it feels like I don't have anything to talk to you about. I don't have anything to update you on because I don't feel like I'm doing anything really mind-blowing because I don't have this professional career to talk about. And I think some of that is my own like lies that I tell myself. But what I notice is when we do have that time where we can like put phones away and be focused, like we still have so much to talk about and I have so much to tell you about each day, but I have to kind of take that moment to really digest what that looks like and then how then to express that to him. And he has to take that moment to be able to see me in the season that I'm in. Which is different. Probably not something that I expected when we started having kids. I felt like this really, he very much went into the career path and me staying home. And that was a really quick difference for us and a really quick gap that if we didn't make intentional steps to fill was going to get bigger and bigger so fast. And that really took me by surprise when we first had Ezekiel.
Yeah, I feel like I remember that time being like a babysitter and going out for the whole night feels like not realistic. And so
kind of like a luxury.
And maybe once in a while,
Yeah.
great. But like on the regular, to have a babysitter
Right.
and then to be to
Well,
your
it's
point, even nursing babe.
expensive.
Yeah.
Think of
Yeah,
like
also.
paying a babysitter, going out to eat, or like even going out to eat and seeing a movie. I mean, that's, you can't do that for less than probably like $120. And I don't even know what the going rate for babysitters is
I don't want to
now.
tell you right now. It's very expensive.
It's so much.
It literally, it's like $20 an hour.
Yeah.
$15 to $20 an hour at a minimum.
And then the other thing is, like, I don't know how other moms are with younger kids, but even if we did have that, my mind is never going to be away from how they're doing, what's going on. Did they go to bed? Is it okay? I'm going to go through a checklist. So I'm really not present because I'm always thinking about what could be happening.
Okay, it's a muscle though, don't you think? Like
Oh,
there's
for sure.
a muscle
For sure.
that needs to just be stretched
Yeah.
as far as like,
Yeah.
okay, I need to be one-on-one with this person.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to zone in for 20 minutes this time,
Right.
you get 20 minutes and then kind of growing.
Well, yeah. So my question is like, so what do you and Sean do to create that intentionality or dating time?
Yeah. Really good question. So we've had one date night since we had Malachi, which was great. It was like 2 hours. It was awesome. But we do like very local stuff if we do go out. That way we can get back really, really easily. But for the most part, we try to take some time weekly where if we're really tired, it means we're going to try to watch a show together. For me, it's really important to put phones away because I think that even if you're watching something together and you're not necessarily talking, it feels different when someone's on their phone
that's for
and
sure.
watching than when you're both kind of invested in seeing this. We also have dinner together every night. Sometimes the babies are with us, sometimes they're not, depending on when bedtime was. But that is another really big time where we're trying to intentionally connect and focus. But for the most part, that's what it is looking like for us is a couple hours here and there where we can try to be really intentional about the time and questions and catching up. And then as the boys get older, that could look different, but this works for us for right now.
Yeah, and I even think I think just switching it up sometimes is fun. Yeah. So it could be like we're gonna order dinner in, but we're gonna try something new together. Okay, we liked it, we didn't like it, or even could you do something like we're gonna cook something, we're gonna cook a new dessert after the boys are in bed, or even I guess it depends on where he's working, but do you have a lunch hour? Like we're gonna actually have lunch together. It doesn't always have to be. At night or
when you're so tired and
exhausted.
Yeah,
is it on Saturday morning? Are you getting up early before the kids, get up? Are you putting them in the stroller and going for a walk and that's your time to debrief with each other?
When it is warmer, we do really love walks because that I think is so helpful to be able to walk together.
Yeah, I was reading a couple things and I saw a quote that just said when you know you're both in the same team working towards the same goals and cheering each other on, then even the toughest competition won't be too much to handle. And there's all these statistics secular and non-secular, basically saying couples who date each other and spend intentional time reported more satisfactory in their marriage and just have healthier marriages because that communication and that connection stays kind of fresh. Okay, so middle years. So what we should call them.
Yeah.
So we're interesting. We still need a babysitter for longer times of being out, but are just starting to toy with how long can we leave our kids home alone and not burn the house down. We're just trying to
fair question.
dabble in that a little. But I kind of was thinking like, okay, what do we do? What's fun? And just some ideas that came to mind, since we can more leave the house and do fun things, was like, hey, what if you played tourist in your city and you looked up like the 10 hot spots that people go to and then you go to them, or saying like, okay, what are the 5 best restaurants in the city? We're going to try all of them, over the course of the next year. Or even like for staying in, I thought like a movie marathon. Like, okay, we went, my family, we just did Star Wars. Like that's a lot of hours, a lot of them. And we started with the first one and went all the way through. And it just is something that you're bonded on, that you like joke about and make references on. I don't know. So those were things that came up, or learning something new together, which maybe if you have more time, So.
Now, Holly, you are such a planner and you're creative with your planning. Is there, do you feel love from Jimmy for him planning a date? Like, if he came to you and, planned something, would that make you feel good? Or,
no, I want that. Yeah. So there's a little bit, because my job is planning events and just different things. It's a lot of planning that sometimes I'm the opposite. When I come home, I'm like, I actually don't want to plan anything. And so when he comes up with the plan, doesn't mean I'm not going to be like, this is what you should have done. Actually, he's actually really good at it. But I love when he takes the initiative and plan. We recently learned how to play shuffleboard together. That was a date night.
I love shuffleboard.
Okay, I'm really good at it. Oh, I don't have a lot of skills, but this is one of them.
Yeah, but shuffleboard is one of those things where you're just like, oh,
yeah,
look at me.
Yeah, so Forest City Shuffle, I think that's what it's called.
You'll have to tell me where this is
exactly. It's up in Cleveland, and it was not super expensive, and we went and we played shuffleboard, and it was so fun. So there's another date night recommendation. Okay, so Sarah, you don't need a babysitter.
No, not really.
And in my mind, I'm like, we just can do date night whenever you want.
Oh, I know. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, but so what's the difference between we have dinner together every night, just the two of us, and it's not just the two of you yet, and this intentional dating time?
Yeah, that's a good distinction to make, because I think. I really appreciate even what Becca was saying, hey, we're going to take this intentional time. We know we have to eat dinner, but we're going to plan, hey, we're going to eat together every night. And I think in that season, that is really, really important, because it's really easy to just be like, whatever. And I think it's really easy, too, to even be like, oh, well, let's just sit in front of the TV and eat. And you said about putting your phones away. It's really good. It's it's showing this person, I'm here, I'm present, I want to have this time with you. So I think it's funny because I just think about dating before marriage, and it's you know how it is. Everyone's putting their best foot forward, right? You're I'm putting all the stops. I want to impress this person. And then it's once we're married, why does that kind of fade away? It's stops. We're they're stuck, right? And that's where I think we just have to change our mindset a little bit about that, because what happens is we do change. We become parents and we have kids. So I'm the person I was when I got married as a very young person who was super naive, but am not the same person I was when I started having my babies, or even as my kids have gotten older. I mean, life happens, so you change. So I think this idea of hey, we got to keep pursuing our spouse and getting to know them. So for Matt and I, it is we will do the random, let's go out to our favorite Mexican restaurant, and it's a Monday night, which feels crazy. But it's just hey, we get to have that one-on-one time. I mean, we were gone for an hour and a half, but it feels that's great. I think something that Matt and I have had the more freedom to do, and something we are being more intentional about, is actually going on little trips together. Yeah. So now that we just have more of that time and don't have to figure out okay, when we had 4 little kids, that just was not realistic. That was just not going to happen. It was going to be so complicated with getting people where they needed to be and all that kind of stuff. Now to go away for 3 or 4 days is not it's not a big deal. And so that's the stuff that I feel Matt and we've been trying to do that. And it feels like an adventure. We try to go somewhere new or different. You don't have to spend a lot of money to do that. Yeah. I think that's what am I saying? Just think something we believe when we're 50,
the misnomer,
we'll start doing that. There are so many things. Holly, you are probably an encyclopedia of things, but we really have a lot. Honestly, going downtown Cleveland and staying the night and doing something fun down there, or going wherever, there's lots of things you can do. So I think that's how it looks differently for us, just because we're in a different stage of life, season of life. And I do think that is so important. Just remember, every season of life is different. It has its own challenges, but embrace that. Don't always be looking for kind of be grieving the season you're in and looking towards
it'll be so nice when. Right, it'll be so nice
really,
when.
by the time you get there, if you haven't invested in your marriage before,
it doesn't matter.
It's not going to matter.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be like, who is this person sitting across from me,
And I would even say sometimes it's really hard to get away for a night, especially the younger kids, or even like a night, like you go to Nursing Babe, a night isn't realistic.
Yeah.
Right.
But even for that hour and a half date, sometimes it's really hard, and it feels like, was that even worth the work?
Right.
But I feel like what we're saying is worth the work.
It is
sometimes
worth it.
you're not going to see it until years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's my encouragement, I think, to everyone who's younger.
Yeah.
Like, it is worth the work. Do it. Get away.
Yeah.
Another thing is, my friends and I have done this too. Like, you could trade babysitters, so you could be
great
like,
idea,
hey,
actually.
I thought you were going to say babies. I thought you were going to say you could trade babies.
I would.
like,
that.
I've never heard that.
But yeah, this idea of like, hey, the kids can come over for pizza tonight. You guys go to dinner, and
That's
next
a really
week
good idea.
you do it. And so then all of a sudden, the cost of having a babysitter is a lot lower. So if you don't
That's
have,
a great idea.
yeah, it just is another option.
Well, and
besides
honestly,
that $20
sometimes
rate.
it's not like when you're just inviting friends over for them to play. It's not like, oh my gosh, now I'm watching 7 kids. It's actually their friends are there. They're staying occupied. It's really.
Yeah. And I feel like we've kind of hinted around, but let's maybe, like, as we wrap this up, talking about the connection between your marriage and parenting more. Like, maybe we end with like, hey, we're talking about, hey, it's so important for your marriage to be healthy and fulfilled. But how does that how does that translate into our parenting? Maybe we wrap up with that kind of thought.
Well, I mean, I think at least for me, like, having a strong marriage allows me to be a good parent. Matt and I are a team, when it comes to parenting. I have people who are single parents, like, really, honestly, I have mad respect for you. I don't know how you do that. I'm sure it's extremely difficult. But I have this partner, right, that allows me to, when we're together and we've spent that time and we've talked about how we want to raise our kids, what we want our family to look like. We've done that because we've spent time together. We've done those things. So now we're on the same page. We're on the same team. It allows me to be a much better mom because I have a really strong foundation to work from. So I just think the two really do go hand in hand. I think it's really hard. Like, if you were having a difficult marriage, I'm sure that would be reflected in your parenting, like even your frustration, your anger towards your kids, because you're going to have a short fuse. I mean, there's so many different things. Like, when I have a fulfilling marriage that honors God first, and then my husband comes second, and then my kids, it just feels like everything's in order, right? Like, it's so funny. My kids always, we'll make the comment, they'll always say, like, yeah, we know you guys love each other more than you love us. And honestly, that's true. And it's so good for them to recognize that and see that. Because hopefully I'm hoping that we're mirroring for them or showing them how it is that it's going to be for them with their spouse, in the future. So, I just think it's hard to disconnect those two.
Yeah, that was a great answer. And I feel like for me right now, my kids are in such an imprinting stage. They are looking at everything. They're noticing everything. They're imitating everything, that I think it would be really hard if Sean and I they would know that. Like, they would feel that right away if we were disconnected, or if we were sharp with each other, or if we yelled at each other. Some of those things can just be difficult. Like, your kids do see that, and they notice it, and they take it in and are making sense of it in their own way. And so I think for us, the better we're doing together, the stronger we are in our individual roles as well. And I can tell when we are, like, when there's some disconnection or we're missing each other, we're like ships in a night. We'll use that phrase a lot. And we just need to take a pause, because that, like Sarah said, that starts to reflect in both of our different roles.
Yeah, the importance of taking that pause.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Valentine's Day. I don't know if you have plans tonight, but it's not too late. You don't have to do it around Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Actually, don't. It's going to be crowded and expensive.
It's so expensive for no reason.
We're so jaded. Okay. Yeah. But no.
Maybe don't take.
But plan something special maybe for your spouse to let them know that, they still matter. And that way you guys can stay connected and move your ship forward.
That's right.
Yeah.
Love each other. Happy Heart Day, everybody.
This has been Parenting for the Everyday. Tune in next time.